Can the Dallas Cowboys offense finally get back on track against New England in week 4? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys. Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. The Cowboys have a big game this weekend against the New England Patriots. Landon, I want to start with this. Do you think the Cowboys offense can finally get back on track against a really, really good New England defense?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, first of all, I feel like the offensive problems are seemingly, at least just so far, have stemmed mostly from the red zone. I mean, it seems like it's mostly a red zone problem. I mean, even last week, the Cowboys offense had no problem moving the football. I mean, and even now, like after that game, if you look at where the Cowboys are statistically in some of these categories, is EPA per drive, or plays per drive, or yards total traveled, or any of those, Dallas is near the top. They're moving the ball well. It's just about punching it into the end zone. I think obviously that's going to be a huge focus for them during practice this week. And I also think that, again, like we've said it before and then we've kind of forgotten it, but this is still September football. They're still kind of ironing out some things. And then, to consider the fact that they were able to, move the ball as well as they did last week while missing 3 of their starting offensive linemen. Hopefully you're getting at least 2 of those guys back, maybe even all 3.
I was going to mention that's going to help it. We'll see about Tyron's status, which is still so. I don't know what's going on there. Like I
would like to know more information, because it's so bizarre that he would be the guy that got dressed out last Sunday, but the guy who's now the furthest away from coming back, despite the fact that it doesn't seem like anything really has changed.
I know.
So
that's what, to me, I wonder if it's a pain tolerance thing more than an injury thing, right? Yeah. Because if you can dress and you can be available in emergency situations, it must be something that you have to manage. And again, we're just totally guessing here, but
yeah, I mean, just reading tea leaves.
It does seem like Zach Martin and Tyler Biadasz are at least trending in the right direction to play. The Cowboys don't practice on Friday. They'll have a walkthrough on Saturday. Crossing our fingers we can get through a walkthrough without a major injury. But at the very least, it seems like that right side of your offensive line should be back together this week.
Yeah, and honestly, I think, we talked about it before that game. Like, we really did feel like running to the right side was a lot of times, especially even last year, for a good portion of it, running behind that right side of the offensive line was the bread and butter of this offense. It was the kind of go-to play. So, you and I talked about it on Wednesday. Belichick likes to take away the thing that you do best and make you win with your other hand, left-handed, however you want to say it, right? I think that if the Cowboys are able to get back a healthy Zach Martin to, complete with Terrence Steele on the right side, and then also you still have Tyler Smith at left guard. I understand that it's Tyron Smith you need a left tackle, and that obviously we prefer to have him, but that should be at least enough that your run game should be, greatly improved. And if Bill wants to go and take away CeeDee Lamb, and that's his choice, or Bill wants to take away the short passing game, as you suggested, that's his choice, then the Cowboys should at least have that, zone right, a power play right, where you can pull Tyler around and have those the right side guys block down. That should be something that they should be able to at least hang their hat on if the passing game isn't quite working the way they want it to early on.
I want to mention another name that I think is going to need to have a big game for the Cowboys to win. It's Brandon Cooks. And we actually heard Jerry Jones on 105.3 The Fan today talking about Brandon Cooks and how much they need to get him more involved. I think he's going to have the best matchup in terms of who he's going to be guarded against in this game. Jonathan Jones, Their outside corner likely to see Michael Gallup. We think Christian Gonzalez is going to follow CeeDee Lamb in the slot. That means it's probably going to be either Miles Bryant, the small slot corner out of Washington, or here's another familiar name, Shaun Wade, the former cornerback from Ohio State. That's likely going to be covering Brandon Cooks. He's got to win some matchups. And frankly, I think he's got to make some plays down the field to help give the Cowboys some, more chunk plays in this offense.
If I remember correctly, you and I did not have kind things to say about Shaun Wade's tape. And here's the thing, we've talked about it. There's a couple different ways that Bill likes to play this. It may be different now with Christian Gonzalez. Maybe he has a CD follow or have Christian follow CD everywhere. The other thing that he really, really likes to do is he puts his second corner on the top receiver and then clouds him, puts another safety on the top of him, or finds a way to bracket him. So that would mean that Christian Gonzalez gets kicked down to someone like Cooks or Gallup. So depending on how that all gets rearranged, it is a game of whack-a-mole for the New England secondary, but they've got one less mallet than they need, right? Because the problem is that eventually Shaun Wade is going to have to cover somebody, whether it's Brandon Cooks, whether it's Michael Gallup, and if we're lucky, maybe it's CeeDee Lamb. And I think that's where the Cowboys are going to go find the donkey, or find the target. Where's Shaun Wade? What's his number?
Yeah.
Oh, there he is. That's who we're throwing to.
Just want to mention a couple players on New England's defense just to keep an eye on this game. Matt Judon continues to be one of the best edge rushers in the NFL. I don't think we don't need to tell you guys about him. But Josh Uche, the Michigan edge rusher who we liked a little bit coming out a few years ago, 6'1", 240 pounds. He's not going to play on rundowns at all, but he is so good bending around the corner. This is going to be one of the games where Dak can't afford to drift back in the pocket at all. He's got to stand tall in the pocket, step up and make throws. And probably the longer a play goes on, the worse it's going to be for Dallas's offense, because that's just where New England thrives, is when things start to get a little bit chaotic and the play lasts longer and the guys can kind of rally to the football. So Dak, if he can be confident, make quick decisions and be accurate, I think they're going to be fine on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I think if they can keep ahead of the chains, then if they put Uche on the field, you run at him,
which they won't. I mean, they're only going to put him in an obvious passing situation.
So just don't let him get into obvious passing situations. He's not unstoppable by any stretch of the imagination, but he's one of the better players on their team, and he provides a nice complement when you're already having to deal with Judon and then Christian Barrymore inside as a pass rusher. So. I think he's just a good kind of Robin to his Batman on pass rushing down specifically.
All right, Landon, let's talk about the one player that we are, we're going to call the X Factor here in Week 4 against the New England Patriots. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by DoorDash. Are you missing the syrup for your pancakes in the morning? Or maybe you forgot your favorite coffee creamer? With DoorDash grocery delivery, you can get what you want right when you need it. If it's just so convenient to go on the app, buy what you need, and have it delivered directly to your house. It's like, if you were at the store picking it out yourself, you get exactly what you ordered, or they're going to make it right for you. So sit back and enjoy quality groceries just like you picked them yourself. If you want even more value, you can sign up for their grocery and restaurant favorites with a $0 delivery fee on all eligible orders with a Dash Pass membership, with easy substitutions right in the app and best-in-class customer support. DoorDash delivers groceries exactly how you want it. Get 50% off your first DoorDash order up to a $20 value when you use promo code LOCKEDONNFL at checkout. It's a limited time offer in terms of apply, but that's 50% off up to $20, no minimum subtotal, and $0 delivery fee on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Again, that is promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 50% off your first order with DoorDash. We also want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Gametime. Getting your tickets shouldn't be stressful. We want you to go enjoy the games, the music, the comedy, all the theater events near you without having to stress about your tickets. Gametime will help you do that. I love Gametime. I use Gametime when I go out and buy my tickets. Might be looking to get some Cowboy Bills tickets now that I know the baby's officially here, right?
Yeah.
And I'm actually allowed to go. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. So if you're late, but you still want to go to the game, it's perfectly fine. Find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. With zone deals, you pick the section and Game Time picks the seats for an average of 18% savings. And the Game Time guarantee means that you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Football season is here, and Locked On is kicking up our coverage with Locked On NFL Kickoff Live each Friday. Locked On will go live from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On NFL YouTube channel. Hosts Tanisha Pudis, Jarvis Davis, and Kyle Krabs will break down every game on the NFL slate to get you ready for your team's matchup, your fantasy lineups, and your favorite betting angles, and so much more. Plus, get in-depth local analysis from our stable of NFL hosts across the country who know these teams better than anybody else. Find Locked On NFL Kickoff Live every Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time on any Locked On NFL YouTube channel. All right, Landon, who's your biggest X factor for this game?
Well, I think it has to be CeeDee Lamb. I mean, I know that he's kind of an obvious answer here. In general, he's an obvious answer as an X factor for the Dallas Cowboys. But I really do think that he's going to be the focus of Bill Belichick's, focus, where he's going to be putting the most attention, where that's going to be the kind of piece that they're working the rest of the defense around to try and stop. I think the Cowboys offense, like we talked about, despite, what our perceptions are, has done a pretty decent job of being able to move the ball up and down the field at their leisure. I think CeeDee Lamb has been a huge part of that. When they needed a big play, when they need to throw down the field, it's CeeDee Lamb they're going to. So for the Patriots, I think they're going to want to stop him from getting down the field, and that's going to mean putting a cap on the top of him, putting the sky safety behind him, whoever's covering him. And then just forcing the Cowboys to try to find another way to move down the field. I think they would be willing to have the Cowboys, have some success on the ground if the trade-off is that they don't give up any big plays versus CeeDee Lamb, and they're going to force Dallas to kind of continue to march up and down the field and then get into the red zone and prove that the red zone offense issues have been resolved. But if they keep CeeDee Lamb in check, they keep a lot of the big plays in check in their minds. And I think that's going to be the big key is, can they do that? Can they stop CeeDee?
We just haven't seen this Cowboys offense be very consistent when it's not CeeDee Lamb centric, right? When it's everybody else. It just hasn't really happened a lot over the last 2 years. They need somebody else to be a consistent, reliable option. But I think the Cowboys have just got to find ways to get CeeDee involved, whether it's screen passes, touches behind the backfield, just to kind of get him going a little bit, build his confidence, find ways to get him in some advantageous coverages where he's not being doubled or he's not seeing bracket coverage. Get him going, and I think he's going to be just fine.
Even if Christian Gonzalez is on him, even if he's not being doubled in the slot, if Christian Gonzalez has got him test this rookie out. You're still a rookie. Lamb. Yeah, this kid's still a rookie. All right, so. And I understand that he's played against Tyreek Hill and he did a great job against him, but styles make fights.
Yes.
And CeeDee Lamb may be a better matchup for what Gonzalez wants to do than Tyreek Hill. So I think it's worth going at him, even if the great Christian Gonzalez is covering you.
Well, and what was the knock on Gonzalez coming out of school? A little bit. I mean, I don't want to knock him too much.
As much as knocks go on your top five.
Yeah, right. Because I mean, we love Gonzalez. He's a big, long, athletic cornerback. But one of the reasons that he fell to, was it 16 or 17 in this draft rather than going 5 or 6 is some people question the physicality a little bit. That's where I want to see CeeDee Lamb get right up into him, make this a physical fight. And I know CeeDee Lamb's not the most imposing receiver, right? He doesn't look like DK Metcalf or anything.
He's wiry.
But he is wiry, and he's strong. So if he wants to turn this into a little bit of a rock fight, I actually think that that's a more favorable thing for CeeDee Lamb than Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Gonzalez, despite what we said, like I said, he shut down Tyreek Hill last week. He hasn't quite seen a wide receiver like CeeDee Lamb. And
No.
frankly, there aren't a lot of wide receivers physically built like CeeDee Lamb. He's a very unique kind of matchup. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how well he holds up. And again, Christian Gonzalez doesn't play a ton in the slot. I think he has less than 20 snaps in the
17
slot so far this year. Yeah, so it's going to be he's going to be playing left-handed if he's playing in the slot. So let's take advantage of that.
All right, the guy for me is Leighton Vander Esch. If Leighton Vander Esch has a good game, I almost don't see how Dallas loses. Now, if he struggles, I'm going to get a little concerned because New England's offense isn't particularly good or dynamic, but they do a lot of different things that can confuse defenses. They're going to run a ton of screens. They're going to run misdirection. They're going to run short passes. They're going to throw the ball to the running back out of the backfield on some swing routes. If Vander Esch can have one of his better games, I think they can kind of shut down this New England offense. But if he struggles, he's not breaking down and making tackles in space, or he's getting blocked by, these guards. I do think New England can control the ball a little bit and have these long 8-9 minute possessions where the Cowboys are just stuck on the field on defense.
Yeah, I mean they got to get off the field. That's the key thing, I think. And you're right that it's going to be. It's going to be misdirection. It's going to be trying to, take advantage of the Cowboys' aggressiveness to try to use against their own advantage. They don't have the horses necessary to line up and beat you in a straight game. So they're going to, use what they can, the tools they can to kind of take advantage and try to mute the things that make the Dallas defense strong, which is, again, its aggressiveness, its speed, use misdirection, make the Dallas defense take some false steps, then get the ball back on the backside of the play. Those are the kind of plays we're going to see. Screen games, probably complicated screens that include, pulling guards and that sort of thing. So
they'll also do these screens. If you watch the tape, where they'll fake a running back screen to the left, and then they'll throw it to a tight end screen on the right hand side. And look, Gesicki and Hunter Henry are both really good after the catch. So those, because they can't really throw the ball down the field, they've got to try to trick you. Those are the things that if you play it well and you can kind of stop them, you're going to be able to get this offense into unfavorable situations.
And it felt like, that a lot of the problems last week with the Cowboys defense were discipline based, just like losing their gap integrity, playing with the wrong technique when playing the run. Again, we talked about it before. This is still September football. They're still kind of easing their way. But I think after getting smacked in the face with it last week, I'm sure the defensive meetings with Quinn were not fun this week. I imagine that the technique will be better where it needs to be this week. And so Dallas will hopefully play a much more disciplined game. And honestly, you couldn't have picked a better game to have a better focus on defense, because the New England offense is going to put it to the test.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Layla, let's make our predictions for this week 4 matchup between the Cowboys and Patriots. And by the way, we've always had some really good games between these two teams, whether it was the walk-off touchdown in 2021. There was a game, was it 2011, where the Cowboys were leading late. Sean Lee had an interception, and Brady brought him back. But there's been some really, really good ones over the last couple of years. Who wins this one? We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, each week we're going to provide you the players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's see who Vinny has picked out for us in this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. It's Brock Purdy this week in a good matchup against the Cardinals. 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy has picked up right where he left off as a star rookie passer down the stretch last season with a sharp play in Kyle Shanahan's diverse, loaded passing game this year. Purdy is playing off Christian McCaffrey's running style, delivering nicely through the red zone with his arm and his legs. And in week 4, Purdy gets a very favorable matchup, not against the Cowboys, against the Cardinals defense, who can give up a lot of passing yards. As we saw last week, Purdy managed to score multiple times with 250-plus passing yards as San Francisco builds on an early lead in another blowout. That's our prediction. We think he's going to have a good game. Vinny Iyer from Locked On Fantasy Football is going to help you win your fantasy championship. And eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. The same is true with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure that your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right, Landon, it's our favorite time of the week. It's prediction time. Last week, it's not so great. I picked the Cowboys, which is a mistake. You picked the Cowboys. We were both wrong. Who do you have winning this game?
I'm picking the Cowboys. I don't know that. I think that if I was going to be given the choice between picking a Cowboys loss between these last 2 weeks, in the preseason, I would have picked this game. I think it could be a difficult trap game because it's an AFC opponent.
Especially with the 49ers coming up next week.
The 49ers coming up next week. But last week blew that out of the water. I mean, there's no trap now that you fell to 12-point loss to one of the teams that is in competition for the number one overall pick. I think that the Cowboys win. I think that the Cowboys bounce back from what they did last week. I mean, listen, as much as we didn't want to predict a game like this against Arizona, we've seen this kind of thing happen before. And when we've seen this kind of thing happen before, the Cowboys usually bounce back extremely hard. Yeah. So they're playing at home against an opponent that is a lesser talent than they are for sure. I would say that that doesn't mean that this is a guaranteed victory by any stretch of the imagination. It's still a Bill Belichick team. Anything can happen. If the Cowboys don't play well, that's certainly a possibility. But I just imagine that in true Cowboys tradition, they let out a stinker and then get so embarrassed that they bounce back and play really well. I'm going to predict a 28-21 Cowboys victory. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys got to an early lead and were in control of this for a little bit, and then New England scores a late touchdown to kind of make it a little bit closer. I think the Cowboys are mad. I mean, they should be mad about the way that they performed. If they come out fired up and they score early or get the ball back on their defense early, I wouldn't be shocked if they got an early lead and kind of held on to this for a good portion of the game until near the end when things kind of even out a little more.
Honestly, that's the way I kind of envision this game going. I think it's going to be one where the Cowboys have the lead, but the outcome is still in doubt for a while. And maybe it's one of those, like, it's a 14-10 lead going into the fourth quarter, but the Cowboys have held the ball a lot. There's been a couple turnovers that have kept it close. I don't see the Cowboys blowing out the Patriots. I don't. The New England's defense is too good. They're too well coached, and they play a style of offense that almost makes it hard to blow them out because they have these long drives. And Mac Jones, I mean, we can say what you want about Mac Jones, but what he does is he completes a really high percentage of his passes, and they just play this dink and dunk style of offense that it's kind of hard to get off the field because they just get 4 or 5 yards on every single play. So I'm going to pick the Cowboys. I'm going to go 20-17. Maybe the Cowboys get a late field goal to put it away, but I would be surprised if the Cowboys blew out the Patriots. They're the more talented team, but I would be surprised if they blew them.
Absolutely. I mean, I just think Belichick doesn't get blown out a lot. I mean, it's just that well-coached teams keep it close, even no matter what the talent level is. And I think that this is a well-coached team. So they're going to find a way to be annoying for sure. And the Cowboys have just got to play their game, play disciplined. And if they do that, I feel confident that their talent will win the day. I
do think it helps that this game is at home after a bad loss, right? Like
and a late game too.
I think there's going to be an energy in the building. You hope. I could also see this being one of these things where if they get down early in the game, and not by a lot, but let's say it's a 10-3 game, where you get some of that anxious jitters that are in the crowd, right? We're like, okay, come on. But it does. I'm going to pick the Cowboys to win against my better judgment. 20-17 should be a fun one. We will be back on. Sunday night, Monday to break it all down. We still have to figure that out. Thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every day. Again, everydayers will be back early next week. to break it all down. We'll go live on YouTube at some point. Go follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Cowboys. Go follow Landon at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosier. We are free and available on all platforms. Enjoy the game, and we'll see you right back here on Monday.